Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Powers again, and I wanted to just take a couple minutes this morning to show you um, how I would go about using my graphic organizer as I prepare for an essay. There's been a little bit of confusion, I think, among students about the order that we've been teaching you to write an essay with. And so I want to show you how I would kind of bring it all together and process through the information as I write. So if I had a graphic organizer like this, I would first look at the instructions that were given to me by my teacher, and I would first stop and think about who my audience is. And I know that my audience is my teacher because that's what Mrs. Powers has told me throughout this entire unit, and so that's not going to change for this CSA, this essay on Friday. The next thing that I would look at is just reminding myself what's the purpose of the essay, and the purpose throughout this entire unit has been to inform and to explain. So I'm just going to remind myself that I don't have to try to convince anybody of anything. I don't have to try to entertain anybody. My job is to inform and explain. And then the topic that I'm going to look at today is the topic that we looked at yesterday in the example about Coon Rapids Middle School. And the stance that was developed was that Coon Rapids Middle School is the best school in the state. Okay, so that's my stance on the topic. And then I had to come up with my 3 reasons. Why do I feel like CRMS is the best school in the state? And I had 3 different thoughts about that. The fantastic staff, the hardworking students, and then all the really awesome creative programs we have here at CRMS. I mean, what other school has a bullet journaling club and a Star Wars club? Come on, that's awesome. Anyways, so once I kind of think through these things, I can now move forward with putting together kind of the outline of my essay and what I know I want to talk about. And so I've already developed the main points for my thesis, and these 3 things right here really are the key words that I'm going to use in my thesis. So I can even come right down here and write that first, or at least make sure that I understand what I'm using as my thesis first. So I would just start with CRMS, and I would say is the best middle school in the state, or the best school in the state, because of its fantastic staff, hardworking students, and creative programs. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of speed things up here because of fantastic staff. And I always put a comma between items on the list. Fantastic staff, hardworking students, another comma, and then you always use the word and before the last item in the list. Creative programs. Okay, so I have my thesis, and then I want to also come down here right away because when I'm looking at the 3 body paragraphs that I'm going to have, I can go back to my thesis and just remember the order of things for my essay. So like I can go back and go, okay, my first reason for believing that CRMS is the best middle school in the state is because of the fantastic staff. So I would just outline this right away so that I kind of have the skeleton of my essay already written, and I don't have to think any harder about that later. Hardworking students would be the next thing. So that's going to be body paragraph number 2. And then creative programs number 3. So when I write my essay, these are going to be the body paragraphs that I use in this order, and has to go in the same order as my thesis, because your thesis is like your outline of the rest of your essay. All right. Once I have that in place, then I can kind of go back. I mean, you could do a few things. If you're typing this, you could continue on working on your body paragraphs right here, and you can develop them and write them out and get that all situated if you want to. Otherwise, if you want to come back up here and kind of plan out the rest of your introduction and do your hook and your background information, that's a fine idea too. You just have to kind of decide what works for you. And in the middle of your CSA, if you're sitting here trying to do your hook and nothing's coming to mind, you cannot think of a way to do your hook, then abandon that for the minute, come back and work on some other pieces of your essay, and then go back to it later. Because I've seen so many kids just sit there thinking, and they spend a half an hour thinking about a hook, and then all the time that they could have been using to work on this and make this really awesome has been lost. And that's always a really unfortunate thing to see, and I want you to avoid that kind of issue. So work on what you can, and then go back to it, and hopefully you'll think of an idea as you write, and things will all come together for you. But those strategies that we looked at yesterday for hooks, remember that there should be one that you feel really comfortable with. Maybe it's the shocking question one. Maybe you feel really good about that, and you feel like you can use that strategy for a hook no matter what the essay topic is. Keep that one in your pocket, and if you need to pull it out and use it, right? But I also want you to feel like you can take a risk and try something new and different. And so if there's another hook that you're interested in learning more about and trying to get better at using, consider that one and try that one. And if you can make it work, awesome. If it's not perfect, that's okay. Give it a try something different, take a risk, because that's what writers do. They take risks. So the hook that I am thinking about using is, oops, my light just went off, sorry. Actually, I think that's okay. The hook that I'm considering using is the one where we ask a shocking question. Sorry about that. And the reason I wanted to do a shocking question hook is because I think the question is a really powerful question and can really make people think about life before they even start reading my essay, and that's going to draw people in. And so the question, excuse me, the question that I would like to use for my hook is, did you know there are kids in various parts of the world who risk their lives in order to go to school? So did you know there are kids in various parts of the world who risk their lives in order to go to school? And I really like that question. I feel like it's a powerful introduction, and it's going to effectively capture my audience's attention. I do have to bring it back to this, though. So I have to go from talking about kids in various parts of the world to CRMS. And so that's where background information comes in, because if I wrote out my introduction and it just had these two sentences in it, there'd be this big gaping hole in the middle that is really going to confuse my reader. And so I have to somehow bridge the gap from here to here. So I think, I'm going to mention these kids who risk their lives and go to school, and I could talk a little bit more about that if I wanted to, but my bridge is going to be talking about how here at CRMS, students at CRMS, we don't have to risk our lives. We get to attend, and we have this great privilege of being able to go, and we're so lucky. And so I would have a sentence that states something along those lines. So in Coon Rapids, and I like this part too because I'm also mentioning that our school is in Coon Rapids, right? In Coon Rapids, Minnesota, we have the great privilege and gift of attending a great school for free. Okay? And so now when I look at my entire introduction, it is in the correct order, even though I wrote it in a different order, right? It's now written in the correct order, and it hooks the audience in, gives them the information about my topic that they need, and tells them what my essay is going to be about with my outlined points. All right. And so that is how I want the beginning to go. Now I can really focus on putting my body paragraphs together. At this point, I probably would start writing my essay on paper or typing it. I don't need to fill out this whole thing. This part might be important for you to fill out on Friday when we do the CSA. You might really need to kind of fill this out before you start typing to kind of wrap your head around things. But once you get to this point, you should know, okay, I'm going to mention the fantastic staff, I'm going to give my evidence, I'm going to explain it, I'll have my link to my next point. I'm going to talk about hardworking students, I'm going to share some evidence, I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to link to my next point, creative programs. And you continue that pattern. And then you get down here and you do your conclusion. All right. So I just wanted you again to kind of see how I organize the beginning part of my essay. And I'm not going to fill out the entire graphic organizer. I just am going to get the outline, the skeleton of things, and put my ideas together so that once I start writing my essay, I can just bam, 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 go, 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 go. Okay? So make sure that you look over your notes and make sure that you look over the rubric. Your teacher should be showing you this rubric with introduction, evidence, explain, conclusion, conventions, so that you kind of know. And I kind of blocked off these categories, and I'm going to go through this with my students today. So you can kind of look at what are the main things that you need to have in order to get certain grades. All right. Good luck. Keep looking over your notes and everything. If you actually look, one of the most powerful things in your notes right now, I think, is this piece right here. It goes through Peel with you, but then it also gives you some great transition words that you can use as you write your body paragraphs. All right. Good luck.